This video is brought to you by ClickUp. So I've been using the Galaxy Watch 7 for the last 4 or 5 weeks now, and it's time to give my thoughts on it and whether or not I think this is a watch worth getting. Spoiler alert, I definitely think it is a watch worth getting. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about it. First, I'll talk about the comfort and the design. It's very much the same to the previous Galaxy Watches. I don't even know where this design started. I want to say the Galaxy Watch 4 is where this design started, where it's basically just a rounded design and you have a flat finish around the side where it does feel pretty nice. It's nicely constructed. It is an aluminum frame. I think it's armor aluminum, as they like to call it. On the Watch 7, you do have sapphire crystal glass on the front display. Overall, I do find the watch to be pretty comfortable. Now, that's partly also thanks to the newer band that they included with the Watch 7. The band has these little bumps and ridges that does make it feel a little bit more comfortable compared to the previous silicone bands that they would include. They also did include an athleisure band for free when I pre-ordered. I'm not a huge fan of that band. It is soft and it is comfortable, the band itself, but the metal pieces that hold the band together, the excess extra amount, just get in the way whenever I'm typing. So if you're someone who does type a lot on their computer, you're gonna get annoyed with the little metal hooks. And I also like that they have updated the way that the watch bands actually connect to the watch itself. You now have these buttons on the watch bands themselves that you just press down that you can easily use to push the pins that hold the watch band and the watch together. They get pushed inside and you can just take it on and off. I do find sometimes that it is a bit tedious and you do have to press down quite a bit. So if you don't have nails, it can be a bit tough to remove the bands. And I personally do have the 44mm size, so it is the biggest model that you can get. There also is a 40mm. And the watch with the watch band weighs around 57 grams. Without the watch band, it comes to I think around 33 grams or so. So it will depend on which watch band you decide to use, but with the sport band, which is what I personally like to use, comes around 56 grams, and it is overall, like I said, fairly comfortable. For some quick comparisons, the Pixel Watch 2, which is a smaller watch, comes in at around the same weight with the stock band that one has. The Watch 5 Pro, which is a little bit heavier, I think coming in around 65 or so grams. Now, of course, again, these are with the watch bands that I'm personally using, so it may differ depending on which watch band you use. And with that being said, you are able to use any third-party watch band that is a 20mm size. Now, after those 5 weeks, the watch still looks pretty relatively good as far as the condition and the durability. Sapphire glass has maybe one or so minor scratches that I noticed. The sides of the actual device aren't nicked at all, which is good. The only thing that is annoying is that there is a small crevice between the actual display and the outer edge of the black bezel. And I'm constantly noticing little bits of lint and dust and just crap getting stuck between that little crevice. Not the biggest deal in the world, but when you do notice it, you kind of want to wipe it down really quickly because it does look a bit annoying. Before going further into the hardware, I do want to discuss today's video sponsor, ClickUp. I often get asked how I stay so organized when managing my 9-to-5 job, my YouTube channel, and just my everyday tasks in my personal life. And I always say the key to staying organized is to use some kind of content management or plan management application that helps you break down the bigger project into smaller digestible chunks. Such tools are very important to me to not only stay organized, but also stay ahead of myself, plan, and make sure I meet my deadlines. And that's where today's video sponsor, ClickUp, comes into play. ClickUp is an all-in-one project management tool that's changing the game for teams everywhere. From production to product development to content creators, or for those people who simply just want to organize their lives. Your individual projects and teams can be organized into spaces, lists, and tasks. Spaces you can think of as your main organization. Lists are your different departments, and then tasks would be your individual projects. Within each task, you can link various documents and add additional subtasks, which is what I've personally done with my YouTube videos. Each YouTube video is its own task. Within each task, I list out what exactly I need to do to complete this video. I will additionally link any documents that relate to this video, such as maybe a sponsor read or just my script and notes for what I'm doing for that video. Each task can be set up with various attributes, such as a status, which can be customized to fit your organization. For example, I have my status set up to the various steps I have in my own video creation process and production process. But not only is it important to be able to add your data, but also how you view your data. Within each list, you can have various views, including a list, a board, calendar, timelines, and you can even create your own custom dashboards. You can also create and store documents in the document library, which allows you to create wikis and standard of operation procedures for your team. They also have a lot of different collaborative tools, such as a whiteboard for brainstorming and a chat feature built in. I'm currently still a team of one, so I'm not able to take full advantage of these collaborative tools, but if I ever choose to expand, I'll have a tool already in use that will allow me to get everyone and anyone up to speed. You can also link to various third-party services, allowing you to streamline your workflow into one application. You can connect to your Google Suite applications, or if you're a product development team, you can connect to Figma and or Miro. So if you want to keep your ducks in order, whether you're leading a team or a solopreneur and want to organize and streamline your task management workflow, use my link down in the description, tryclickup.com/tacotech to get yourself started with a free ClickUp membership. And the watch is, I think, IP68 water resistance up to, I think, 50 meters of water depth. Personally, I don't go swimming with this watch or diving, so that does not matter to me at all. But the fact that it is water resistant is good for when I'm washing dishes. That's the only time I'll ever get this watch wet. I don't even use it when I'm in the shower. I take off my watch every single time. Now, as I mentioned, this is the 44 millimeter size, so the display comes in at around a 1.5 inch size, and it is an AMOLED display, and it gets up to a peak brightness of around 2000 nits. I'm not sure what the sustained nittage is, but in my everyday usage, I've had no issues with the brightness. It does get plenty bright enough whenever I'm in a bright environment, such as outdoors, or when I'm indoors, it does a good job dimming down so it doesn't blast me with light. And coming from a Watch 5, I do notice that it is pretty much the exact same size, and when you compare them side to side, you'll notice that the Watch 5's bezels are much bigger. So going from an older generation, the bezel size is what's going to make the biggest difference, which gives you a bigger screen. The only thing that's missing on this Watch 7 is a bezel. Some kind of rotating bezel on the top or a crown on the side. Even the Galaxy Watch 7 Ultra doesn't have a bezel, whether it be, again, a crown or a bezel on the top. I'm very surprised, and that's partially why I personally would not get the Ultra, because there's nothing that rotates that makes it easier to navigate the screen. You do have that digital rotator, but it's just not as good. I end up always just swiping around instead of using the digital bezel. I find that it constantly rotates too far ahead of what I want it to go to. The Galaxy Watch 7 also has a pretty good vibration motor. Definitely not the best that I've used on any watch. I would say the Apple Watch is top tier, always the best. The Pixel Watch actually comes pretty close second, I would say, and then the Galaxy Watch. You can have it set to either a long vibration or a strong vibration or a small vibration or a short vibration. You can choose how you want it to react. I personally have it short and gentle, so that it feels like someone's just tapping your wrist. I personally like to use my watch as an alarm now, so it's much nicer than having a sound alarm, because those are so annoying to me. So I prefer to have the vibration motor just go off, and it does wake me up every single time. Now, jumping into the performance, this is where I saw the biggest improvement and what really got me excited to try out the Galaxy Watch 7. Because don't get me wrong, the Galaxy Watch 5, the Watch 5 Pro, and the Watch 6 Classic definitely could do my everyday things, but there was just always the occasional hiccup, the rough moments where it would just freeze on me, and it got annoying. And so when I saw the Galaxy Watch 7 had improved performance, that's what really got me to go out and get it. If you want spec names, it is using the W1000 chipset with 32 gigabytes of storage and 2 gigabytes of RAM. Now, in my day-to-day, where I notice the improvements the most is when I use the modes. So whenever I go to sleep mode, it instantly switches. It takes like 1 or 2 seconds. Before, on the previous Galaxy Watches, it would take at least 5 seconds. So that's where you see instant improvements. And plus, whenever you switch between the two modes, I would sometimes notice the previous watches would usually have a small hiccup and delay as soon as you switch between the modes. So right after I ended sleep mode, there would always be a little bit of lag when I'm trying to navigate to my notifications or go to my widgets. And I do use my watch pretty heavily whenever I go out for runs. So obviously I'll be using the running mode to track my distance, my metrics for running. On top of that, I actually do use my watch for listening to music, so I don't like to bring my phone with me because it just gets in the way, either having to hold it or have to buy some kind of strap. Either way, I just use my watch to be able to listen to music as well. So with Spotify Premium, I can download music so it's offline on my watch, and then I connect wireless earbuds to the watch so I can then listen to my music on the go. And with my previous Galaxy watches, I would constantly notice lots of issues with either the watch freezing up, my music randomly stopping, because it just can't handle it altogether. And on top of that, every morning in the middle of my run, one of my calendar notifications always goes off. And whenever that notification goes off, it just completely crushes my Watch 5. It just causes it to completely crash out, and sometimes to the point that I have to turn off the watch and restart it. With the Galaxy Watch 7, there's a small pause in the music because the notification's coming through, but right after it's over, the music starts right back up again and there's no issues at all. So that's one of the moments where I definitely noticed the performance being much better than the previous Galaxy watches. As far as the software, you are running Android Wear OS 5.0 with the Galaxy Watch One UI 6.0. It's overall very similar to the previous Galaxy watches and previous One UI experiences on this watch. You have your notifications when you swipe to the left, then you have your customizable widgets when you swipe to the right, and then swiping down, you do have your quick settings and toggles. And then swiping up, you have your app drawer. You may notice a few small tweaks to the design and UI elements, but besides that, the functionality is pretty much the same. One thing I do love that One UI allows you to do that Wear OS does not is create folders within your app drawer. Just makes it a lot nicer to be able to customize your apps so that you're not browsing through a bunch of apps in one place. And in my opinion, the stock watch faces that Samsung provides with One UI are much cleaner and are a lot more customizable because they give you a lot more components and elements that you can change up to be able to give you quick access to a lot of various things. And in case you're curious about the watch face I'm using the Ultra Info board. I also do want to mention the compatibility with other Android phones. So if you have a Samsung phone, you'll get the most out of it. The only major difference I noticed when using this with another Android device that's not a Galaxy. So for example, I've been using the Pixel 8 Pro for the last 2 weeks with the Galaxy Watch 7. And the only major thing that I noticed, which does kind of suck, is the different modes. The only modes that you get are the sleep mode and the theater mode. You don't get the additional modes like work mode and stuff like that when it comes to your Galaxy phone. And additionally, you do have to manually turn on those modes on your watch if you were to turn it on your phone. So if you turn on sleep mode, it won't turn it on your watch. Plus, you do have to download an additional app, that being the Samsung Health app, to be able to see those Samsung metrics for your health, as well as the Galaxy Wearable app to actually even connect your phone to the watch itself. So if you have a Galaxy phone, you won't have any issues. But if you have any other Android phone, it'll still work. You'll get 99% of the experience, but minor those few things that aren't really the end of the world, but are just more of an inconvenience. And within the health settings, you can create your own workout routines as well as your own exercises. I'm not sure if Fitbit or if other health apps allow you to do this, but this is the first time I've ever experienced this with the Samsung watches, which may also come down to the previous Galaxy watches. I do like it because I do have a workout routine that I like to do every evening, and I can quickly set up various exercises that I do for each particular workout, whether that be my core, back exercises, arms, chest, etc. So this just makes it a lot simpler and actually keeps me focused on my exercises as well, because sometimes you'll get distracted by either your phone or music, or if you're talking to someone. The Galaxy Watch here will give you little breaks and then gets you right into your next set. So I personally do enjoy it. It keeps me focused on my workouts. And on top of that, you are able to use the various sensors that it has to be able to track reps. I do find that it completely misses some reps, or it counts some of my movement as a rep, even though I'm still just getting into position or something. So it's not perfect, but it does help you sometimes keep you accountable, because maybe you may have a bad rep and you usually may count that as one. But the watch didn't count that, so I'm like, okay, I guess I should do a better one. So I'll motivate myself, to do an additional rep or so. And there actually is a new sensor on the back that's a 3-in-1 bioactive sensor. Honestly, I'm not sure what it means, so I noted down that it's basically a new heart rate sensor, an electrical heart sensor, as well as a bioelectrical impedance analysis sensor. So whatever that means, it's just a new heart rate sensor overall, I think. But basically, you're supposed to be getting improved metrics here when it comes to your health. I don't dive too deep into my metrics. I honestly just rely on it for the basic stuff. Whether that sensor is better than the previous Galaxy watches, I'm sure there's YouTubers out there who have done a more in-depth analysis of that, and you can rely on them for that. But for me, as a casual, regular consumer, I think that it performs just as well as the previous Galaxy watches. And it did add a couple other stuff when it comes to your health. The first thing is sleep apnea detection. So this doesn't run automatically. You do have to manually set it up and turn it on, and it only runs for 3 nights. After that, it's apparently enough to be able to tell you yes or no, you may have potentially sleep apnea. You also have a new age index, which basically tells you what your health age is. So I may be 24, but maybe my health is at an age of like 30, which basically tells me that I'm in terrible shape. Or maybe on the opposite, maybe I have the age of a 20-year-old, which would be fantastic. But right now for me, it is telling me that it's higher up. So I'm not entirely sure what the difference is between my actual age and my health age. It's just giving me a small index there. So whether that's accurate or not, time will tell, I guess. I will say that I am using the Ultrahuman Ring Air, and it also tells you something similar, where it tells you your cardiovascular age versus your regular age. And my cardiovascular age, according to the Ultrahuman Air, after about a week and a half of usage, it's telling me that I am 24. So I don't know which one's accurate. So I guess we'll find out in the future when I become chronically ill or don't become chronically ill. And you do have 2 different scores that it tells you if you want to quantify your health. So you have your sleep score, which basically just tells you overall how well you slept, if you want a number to dictate how well you slept. And then you have your energy score, which uses your sleeping stats, as well as your heart rate, HRV, and your previous activity from the previous day. And put that all together, put it through some algorithm, some mathematical equation, and it brings out an energy score, which should tell you how well you are feeling for the day. Again, whether that's something that's accurate or not, or really that means anything, that's totally up to you to decide. Usually I forget that it's there and until I go into my health app and notice that it's right at the top. It doesn't do anything to me. I mean, if you're someone who gets motivated by that, then great. But if you're someone who also gets demotivated by the same thing, then it's not a good thing for you. But either way, I personally don't rely on the energy score myself. But if you're someone who likes to see that kind of stuff, then great. You have that on the Galaxy Watch 7 now. Now, some additional things I do want to talk about as far as calls and notifications. I actually don't take too many phone calls nowadays, and when I do, I usually just take them on my phone with earbuds. Don't really like to use the Galaxy Watch or just any watch in general for calls unless I absolutely need to. That's mainly because you would be, using the speakerphone on this, and you do have to hold the wrist up to your face as well as potentially have other people listen in on your call. So I'm always just using earbuds when I'm on a call. Notifications though are great because again, the vibration motor comes through. It does notify me every single time. I haven't had any issues with notifications not coming through. And they've also introduced a pinch feature, which has already existed before. I think it was an accessibility setting, but now it's easier to find and it's being marketed because, Apple Watch does it now with the Apple Watch Series 9. So Samsung wants you to know that the Galaxy Watch also has that same feature. I will say it is pretty useful when it works. When it doesn't work, it can be annoying. So I use it to turn off timers and notifications and alarms. It's great without having to actually use the screen itself, just double tapping your index finger and thumb turns off that alarm. Super easy and convenient whenever you have your hands full. But I found that sometimes the pinch gesture goes off when I don't want it to go off. It would either be from a vibration from the outside world, or I'll just move my hand in a certain way that it thinks that I'm triggering the pinch gesture, which I'm not trying to. So there are times where I accidentally paused a timer because it thought I was doing the pinch gesture, and I didn't notice till minutes after, which then caused me to mess up with my timers and just mess me up on whatever I was doing. Additionally, it doesn't work that great whenever you're out in a run, which I kind of understand because you're already moving. It's probably difficult for it to try and figure out if you're actually doing the gesture. It works maybe 25% of the time. The rest of the time, it never works. So I have to use my other hand to swipe away the notifications. Now, as far as battery life, you do have a 425 milliamp hour battery. And of course, this is going to differ from person to person depending on how you use your watch and what you do, your different settings and all that stuff. Personally, I like to use the always on display, but I also did use this with the always on display off to see if there was a significant difference. I have notifications set to all, and then what I do is that throughout the day or throughout my usage, as I get notifications that I don't want to be notified on my watch itself, I'll turn them on with the setting and option to block them when I get the notification. So at first, I was getting a lot of notifications on my watch, but slowly and surely, I'll be getting less notifications on the watch. And as I mentioned, I do have a brief period every day day where I'm running for about 30 minutes or so, and I'm using the location, so the GPS, I'm using Bluetooth and running music, so that does drain the battery a good bit. So overall then, with the always on display on, I do get just about 23 hours. That's usually my average. So not even a full day. There's some days where I do get a full day, but usually it's around 23 to 24 hours. If I were to turn off the always on display, I usually get an extra maybe 7 to 8 or 9 hours. So I personally think I'm going to stick with the always on display off just to make sure I have enough juice throughout the night, every day, so I can charge this up while I'm showering. Don't have to worry about making sure I have to charge it up again when I go to bed so that I can track my sleep. Although now that I have a smart ring, the Ultra Human ring, I may decide to not wear this at all overnight and just rely on the Ultra Human ring to track my sleep. But with that being said, I do wish the battery life was just a bit better. I was hoping for maybe 2 days without having to go for the Galaxy Watch Ultra. I will say there was a couple of days where I decided to use a watch face that uses pictures, and holy hell was my battery draining much quicker, so I quickly went back to my InfoBoard watch face. I almost forgot to mention the speeds of the charging. It takes about an hour and 25 minutes or so it isn't the quickest out there, but it's also not the slowest. Depending on your battery habits, you may be able to just charge your device while you're getting ready in the morning. Just plop it on the charger and let it charge for maybe 30 to 40 minutes. And that may be enough for you to get through the whole day and then allow you to do the same thing the next morning. And because of the new sensor, they have removed the ability for you to be able to charge your watch with your smartphone using reverse wireless charging. This isn't a loss, particularly for me, because I don't use this feature very often, if at all. But if you're someone who does travel a lot and doesn't want to take a dedicated charger with you at all times, then being able to use your phone for your charger is pretty convenient. But now you won't be able to do that anymore with the Galaxy Watch 7. Now, as far as the pricing, the Galaxy Watch 7 starts at $329 for the 44mm and then $299 for the 40mm. But you'll likely never pay those full prices because you'll probably always find this at a sale, whether it be with some kind of promotion that they have or a trade-in offer. I personally paid $150 for the Watch 7. I actually ended up trading in a Galaxy Watch Active that no longer worked. They had a promotion where you could trade in any watch, any condition, and get $100 off. So with that promotion, it was definitely well worth it getting a brand new Watch 7. But I will say I am disappointed with the color options they had this year. They only had green and a silver in the 44mm and then a cream in the 40mm. No black. Where's the black? I wish they had a black, but either way, I wish the colors were a bit better there. So to wrap it all up, the Galaxy Watch 7 is definitely well worth the money in my opinion. It's finally up there with the Apple Watch as far as the overall fluidity and performance. It's finally there. Before it was just missing that extra kick to be able to keep it up with the Apple Watch and even the Pixel Watch now, and also the TicWatch Pro 5 that I've been using in the past as well. Finally, this feels just as snappy as those watches. So I hope this video was helpful. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and peace.